Bruchim habayim, everybody. Welcome to class number 3 in Torah Aleph, lesson 1 of Likutei Moharan, of the 10-minute weekly Likutei Moharan shir. So, a quick few things we have to remember in order to keep going. First, the first concept that Rabbi Nachman talked about was this aspect of chen, of charm, and that beautiful charm that we see in the world that people have is just a hint to a special spiritual chen, charm, that has something to do with our connection to Hashem, and how when we build up that chen in Bnei Yisrael, then we'll have a special connection to Hashem, which will cause our tefillahs, our prayers to be heard and to be answered. Then we said this beautiful, amazing concept that we always have to look for the depth of wisdom in everything we come in contact with, whether it's people, ideas, experiences, inanimate objects even. Everything in the world has divine wisdom and intelligence behind it. And the more that we look for that divine wisdom and intelligence and find it in everything, the more light we will bring into our own existence, to light up our path and to help us on our way. Because as we saw, wisdom is connected to illumination. It's so obvious. When we have wisdom, things are clear and illuminated to us. So the pasuk tells us, Chachmas Adam ta'ir panav, the wisdom of a person lights up his face, gives him illumination. That's where we finished off. We're now going to do the next step, which is once again going to seem not totally related, but partially related. And this is something that is another derech of Rabbi Nachman that he does throughout the Sefer Likutei Moharan. He's going to apply this concept to a certain personality in the Torah, and see that personality is the source of this character trait, this idea, and this concept. And Rabbi Nachman always uses the word bechina. Bechina means an aspect, a certain aspect of something. So we're going to see, there's one aspect here that connects to another aspect here. And through connecting all of these aspects together, once again, we're going to bring things that seem to be separate and show how they're really all part of one big, beautiful, amazing, illuminating puzzle. Okay, so the next thing that Rabbi Nachman says after that is V'zeh b'chinas Yaakov. This is also the concept of Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov our father, Jacob. Ki Yaakov zachal b'chayra shehu reishis, because Yaakov merited to receive the right of the firstborn, which is reishis, the word reishis, b'chayra, is firstborn, and reishis means also the first, right? The first of your crop is reishis tevuasacha, right? And this is the concept of wisdom. Reishis and b'chayra is connected to wisdom. Shehu b'chinas chachma, which is wisdom. How do we see that? So first of all, we see that in Tehillim, the pasuk says, reishis chachma, yiras Hashem. The reishis is chachma. The first is chachma. We also see that in the count of the spheres in Kabbalah, right? When you go through the spheres, the 10 emanations of godliness into the world, right? Depending on which way you make the count, chachma is the first. Chachma, bina, das, chesed, gevura, tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, and malchus, right? Those 10 spheres, the first one is chachma. Sometimes it does a different version, a different arrangement, where das is not there and you have keser, chachma, bina. But in the standard arrangement, chachma, bina, and das, chachma is first. Chachma is the first of the spheres. So reishis chachma. Chachma is the first. Chachma is connected to the word reishis. So just like Yaakov went after the first, the right of the firstborn, it's because it's an aspect of his nature that he is a reishis, is a first. He is a chachma person. He's a wisdom person. So Yaakov's personality, he's the source and the deep connection of wisdom and intellect in the Torah. And we also see that when he outsmarted his brother Esav, right, he tricked him in the Torah, but over the birthright by giving him food, and then he dressed up and he dressed up in his clothes and tricked his blind father, right? Everybody knows the story. You have to study that story in depth to really understand it and to see the good in it, right? But he tricked him 2 times. And the pasuk in the Torah says, Vaya'agveni ze pa'amayim. And it's translated as, what that's supposed to mean is he outsmarted me twice, right? The Targum Onkelos, the great translator of the Torah into Aramaic, translated it as v'chakmeni, that he chachmafied me, right? He chachmafied me. He outsmarted me. He wisdomed me. The word vaya'akveni is really Yaakov's name. The shorish of Yud, Ayin, Kuf, vaya'akveni. You could translate it, in my own way of speaking, in two ways. You could say, he Yaakovified me. He's turning the word Yaakov into a verb. He Yaakovified me. And as the Targum Onkelos translated, he chachmafied me. He outsmarted me. Yaakov means chachma. The word itself, Onkelos is telling us, means wisdom, means smartness, means outsmarting. Vayakveni, he outsmarted me. So you see that Yaakov is a source of seichel, of wisdom in the Torah. Now Rabbi Nachman is going to take this from the idea of wisdom, connecting to a personality, Yaakov Avinu, and he's now going to connect it to another existence in the universe. So Rabbi Nachman says, V'zeh bechinas shemesh. This is also an aspect of the sun, the real sun in the sky. Why? How do we see this? You're probably putting this together to be able to understand this beautifully. Because just like the sun illuminates our path and gives us the ability to see and the ability to live our lives and to do what we have to do, right? We sleep during the night when it's dark, and we go out in the day to do what we have to do because that's when it's light, and that's when we can see everything in the world. It gives us clarity. It gives us illumination in the world, in a physical sense, right? This is also what seichel does for us, what wisdom does for us. When we have wisdom, we have illumination and clarity. It helps us to see clearly what is true and what has to be done. And if we don't have seichel, if we don't have wisdom, we're blind. We're in the darkness. We don't know what's going on. And this is an aspect of what the pasuk says, Va'orach tzadikim ka'or noiga, hoilich va'or ko ad nechon hayom. That the light of tzadikim, the orach tzadikim, the path of the tzadikim, is like radiant sunlight that goes and shines on until it approaches the midday, says the pasuk. So in other words, the pasuk is telling us that the light of tzadikim is illuminating, just like wisdom is illuminating, and just like the sun is illuminating, so too is this aspect of Yaakov, a tzaddik. A tzaddik is someone who brings illumination into the world, who brings Torah and light into the world, just like the sunlight. Why do we connect to Rabbi Nachman? Why do we connect to the Torah of Rabbi Nachman? Why do we go to ask Reb Shalom Arush for advice? Why do we connect to people who are tzaddikim, who are greater than us? Because they can bring illumination to us. They can open the channels of wisdom to us and help us to see something that we weren't able to see before. This is what wisdom is, illumination. Wisdom is illumination. And this is also an aspect of the letter chet in the Hebrew aleph base. Chet is spelled ches yud tes. If you have to spell it out, ches yud taf. Right? If you spell out the Hebrew letter in Hebrew letters, the way it sounds, it's spelled ches yud taf, which is a lashon of chiyus, which means life force. Life force, chiyus, life force. Ki hachachma havaseichel hu achiyus shel kol davar, because wisdom and intelligence is the life force of everything in the world. Kamosha Kasuv, like the pasuk says once again in Koheles, in Ecclesiastes, hachachma techayeh, says Shlomo HaMelech in Koheles. Chachma is what gives you life. Chachma enlivens you. So we're now seeing these two aspects of Chachma, of wisdom. One is that it illuminates us and gives us a clear path in what has to be done in the world. What do we have to do? And the second thing it does is it gives us enlivenment. It gives us life. It gives us energy and spiritual enlivenment. So what's coming out from this now is that this is something that we're seeing a deep level of understanding over here. And we need to have illumination. We need to have clarity. This is what we're all desiring. Whenever we have pain in our lives, it's because we have a doubt. We don't understand what's happening. We don't get why it's happening to us. We don't see what's happening. But once we're able to have a clear vision of what's going on, then we have illumination, we have clarity and understanding. Now we have a path to go on. Once again, I know it's late, but I'll just say something that is said over by Breslov Chassidim, and the Rav Shalom Arush brings it down also, is that sometimes things happen to us and we think they're bad. And we don't understand, why is this happening to me? And one of the statements that we always have to understand, is that this is not happening to me, it's happening for me. Whatever is happening to me is Hashem giving me exactly what I need to grow, exactly what I need to become a better person. And therefore, I just don't understand it, right? And if I would understand it, if I would see exactly what was going on, I would get it. It's like a father who's trying to teach his kid to walk. Little baby, right, is just learning to walk. And so the father stands in front of the baby and he holds out his hand, or the mother stands in front of the baby, holds out her hand, and the baby takes that first step, right? And it's so excited, big smile on its face. And it's expecting to go into the arms of its parents. But what do the parents do? They step back. And they take away all the security that is given to that child. And all of a sudden the child's face changes. And he looks like, what are you doing to me? Right? And at that moment, what happens? The child falls to the ground. Confused. What? Why did my parent just step back from me and just make me fall to the ground? They don't get it. They don't understand. Why? Because they don't have the wisdom and seichel, the intelligence to understand what's really happening. What's really happening is that mother cares so much about that child that she is doing what has to be done in order to teach that child to walk, to teach that kid to go on a path, to be able to move for themselves, to become the person they're supposed to be. They need to go through this experience of having to make that next step, and maybe not even being able to make it, but having to try. That is exactly the way that sometimes we face problems in our lives. And what we're learning from Rabbi Nachman over here, if we have the wisdom to know, to be able to say, I'm looking for the wisdom in everything. When something happens to me, I'm not just mad, why is it happening to me? I step back and I say, what's the wisdom? What's the seichel in this thing? Why is this happening for me? What's Hashem giving me with this thing that I'm facing? Thank you very much. Bezos Hashem will continue next week. I love you all. Have an amazing week.